Historiography, Indian tradition. Tradition of Indian historiography can be studied by classifying it into three periods. Tradition of Indian historiography. 1. Historiography in the ancient period. 2. Historiography in the medieval period. 3. Historiography in the modern period. It is of two types. 1. Indian historiography in the pre-independence era. 2. Indian historiography in the post-independence era. Indian historiography in the pre-independence era is of three types. 1. Colonial historiography. 2. Orientalist historiography. 3. Nationalistic historiography. Indian historiography in the post-independence era is of three types. 1. Marxist history. 2. Subaltern history. 3. Feminist history. Historiography in the ancient period. The inscriptions on the Harappan seals and other artifacts confirm that Indians had mastered the art of writing as early as the 3rd millennium BCE, or perhaps before that. However, the Harappan script is not yet successfully deciphered. The earliest known written documents of historical nature found in India are in the form of inscriptions dated from Emperor Ashok Maurya's times. His edicts are inscribed on natural rocks and stone pillars. A copper plate was found at Sohagora in Gorakhpur district of Uttar Pradesh. It is supposed to be the form of the Mauryan period. The inscription is written in Brahmi script. The ancient Indian literature, including the epics Ramayana and Mahabharata, Puranas, Jain and Buddhist texts, historical accounts by Indian authors, and also travelogues by foreign travelers are important sources of history. Historiography in the medieval period. The style of writing, Raj Tarangani, the history of Kashmir by Kalhana in the 12th century CE, is quite close to the concept of modern historiography. Kalhana himself says that he wrote this text after critically examining various sources like inscriptions, coins, remains of ancient monuments, dynastic records, and local traditions. In the medieval India, the historians in the courts of Muslim rulers were influenced by Arabic and Persian historiography. In Tariq-i-Firuz Shahi, a book written by Zayuddin Barani, he has stated that the historian's duty is not limited only to the recording of the ruler's valor and policies of welfare, but he should also write about the ruler's failings and incorrect policies. Thus, Barani expanded the scope of historiography. Abdul Fazl's Akbarnama is very important from the viewpoint of critical historiography. His method of collecting authentic historical documents and their scrutiny is looked upon as devoid of bias and hence realistic. Bakhar is an important type of historical documents of medieval times. It contains eulogies of heroes and stories of historic events, battles, lives of great men. Bakhars can be divided into various types such as biographies of kings, dynastic history, descriptions of events, history of a sect, autobiographies regarding grievance based on mythologies, and state administration by a king. Historiography in the modern period. In the 20th century, the Indian archaeological exploration and research started under the British rule. A number of ancient sites were excavated under the supervision of Sir Alexander Cunningham, the first Director General of Archaeological Survey of India. Harappan civilization was discovered during the tenure of Sir John Marshall. Because of this discovery, the antiquity of Indian history could be traced to 3rd millennium BCE or even earlier. Many British officials in India wrote about Indian history. Their writings display strong influence of the colonial policies of the British. The period of Maratha Empire is very important in the Indian history. Grant Duff's name stands out among the British officers who wrote about Maratha history. He wrote the book entitled A History of Marathas. It shows the inclination of the British in condemning Indian culture and history. Neelkant Janardhan Kirtane and Vishwanath Kashinath Rajwade were two Indian historians who took upon the task of exposing the limitations of Grant Duff's writings. Among Indian historians, we can broadly classify the historiography in the modern period, pre-independence and post-independence era. During the pre-independence era, colonial, Orientalist and nationalistic historiography were popular frameworks. But in the post-independence period, ideologies of Indian historians began to change and were influenced by three ideological schools: Marxist, subaltern, and feminist historiography. Colonial historiography. The early scholars who studied and wrote Indian history were mainly British officers and Christian missionaries. Their prejudice is clearly reflected in the way some of them have ridiculed Indian culture. Their writings were used to justify the colonial British rule. The 5 volumes of Cambridge History of India, published during 1922 to 1937 CE, are distinct examples of colonial historiography. Let's learn about Orientalist historiography. 1. Many European scholars were curious about civilizations and countries of the East and had admiration and respect for them. 2. These scholars were known as Orientalists. The Orientalists studied the similarities between Sanskrit and some of the European languages. 3. Among the Orientalist scholars, Frederick Max Muller was of the opinion that Sanskrit was the most ancient language of the Indo-European languages. 4. Orientalist studies resulted into formulating the notion of an ancient language that could be the mother of all Indo-European languages. Let us now learn about nationalistic historiography. 1. The writings of Indian historians which are directed towards restoring the pride and ancient glory of India are referred to as nationalistic historiography. 2. These were the writers who were trained under British educational system and felt the need to restore the self-pride of every Indian. 3. Nationalistic writings in India were inspired by Vishnu Shastri Chiplunkar. 4. The nationalistic historians tried to seek the golden era of Indian history. 5. Mahadev Govind Ranade, Ramkrishna Gopal Bhandarkar, Vinayak Damodar Savarkar, Rajendra Lal Mishra, Radha Kumud Mukherjee, and Anant Sadashiv Altekar are the names of some renowned scholars among the nationalistic historians. Historiography in the post-independence era. In this period, historians began to feel the need of writing various communities, sciences, economic systems, political ideologies, cultural aspects, etc. Let's learn about Marxist history. 1. Marxist history is based on the school of thought formulated by Karl Marx. 2. Indian scholars of the post-independence era began to feel the need of writing histories of various communities, sciences, economic systems, political ideologies, cultural aspects, etc. 3. The basic theme of Marxist historiography is to analyze the impact of every social event of significance has remained. 4. The concern for the means of production, modes of production, and the industrial relations were at the center in the writings of Marxist historians. 5. Marxist historians in India study the transitions within the caste system. 6. Some notable Indian scholars like Damodar Kosambi, Komrade Shripad Amrut Dange, Ram Sharan Sharma, Komrade Sharad Patil adopted Marxist ideological framework. 7. Komrade Dange was one of the founder members of the Indian Communist Party. Subaltern history. 1. The seeds of subaltern history are found in the Marxist historiography. 2. The word subaltern means the bottommost ranks. 3. Folklore has been considered as a very important source of writing subaltern histories. 4. Ranjit Guha, an Indian historian, played a major role in establishing subaltern history as an important academic school of historiography. 5. Similar thoughts were expressed by Mahatma Jyoti Rao Phule and Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar. 6. Mahatma Phule drew attention to the exploitation of women, Shudras and Atishudras, lowest ranks in the caste system, done under the name of religion. 7. Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar's books, Who Were the Shudras and The Untouchables, may be cited as examples of history of subaltern type. Feminist history. Male scholars were mainly involved in the writing of Indian history for a long period of time. As a result, the role and achievement of women in Indian history remained neglected. The feminist literature of the post-independence era concentrated on the issues like gender equality, employment of women, etc. Among women authors writing about women in the 19th century CE, Tarabai Shinde was the foremost one. In her writings, she expressed her views on the male-dominated social system and the caste system. Her book, Stri Purush Tulna, published in 1882, is acknowledged as the first feminist book in India. In the recent times, historians like Yashwant Dinkar Phadke, Ramchandra Guha, etc. have contributed extensively to the historiography of modern India. Thus, it is evident that the Indian historiography has been influenced greatly by the social and political movements.